Okay, today I want to teach you a little bit of Greek. I want to talk a little bit about my dear old dad, and I want to teach you how to dance. I remember vividly sat around our dinner table back in 1963 when on the radio came a little slot of an interview with the guy who'd written a song, and that this song was taking the church by storm. Now, they meant the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, but it was becoming a go-to song, a real expression of their spirituality and journey. And the name of the song, which is really a hymn that was written, was Lord of the Dance. Well, you know, they played this song when my dad, it just didn't sit well with him, bless his heart. I mean, he was raised in a situation where his mum had become part of the Pentecostal Evangelical community, and my father, in his late 20s, also was drawn in, and he became a believer and part of that. But of course, within that context, there were certain beliefs and thoughts, and one of them was, he was very sectarian, one of them was that Catholics weren't really true Christians, you know, despite the fact that they had the biggest adherence of any group across the globe to the Christian message and to following Christ, but they weren't real Christians, you know, and they couldn't really, in our terminology, really be saved, because if they were really saved, they wouldn't be able to do church the way they did church, or believe what they believed about the saints, etc., etc. And so from that background that my dad had, then being introduced to this Catholic song, which was now about the Lord of the Dance, that any suggestion that the divine being, the divine presence in the world would be involved in some kind of a dance that we too also on an equal level were invited to participate in, was just, I mean, this was a bridge too far for my dear old dad. And of course he came from a culture where when he became a Christian, when he became a follower of Jesus, he was taught that you don't go dancing anymore. That's just, you just don't do that, because dancing is where iniquity and sin takes place. And so if you're a real Christian back then, you know, you didn't go to the pictures, you didn't drink, you certainly didn't go dancing. You left all that behind. So now this idea of Lord of the Dance, that somehow God involved in this, it was just too much for dear old dad, bless his heart. I understand why he came to that conclusion, but I have since come to understand that probably wasn't the fullest understanding of what was being presented. See, this song was written out of the grasp of a word that was incorporated into the language of the early church fathers, which is the word perichoresis. Perichoresis, it's a Greek word. And this Greek word is made up of two words, peri, around or surround or circle, and choresis, which is to do with dance, okay? It's to do with a circular dance. And of course, choresis is the word from which we get our word, English word, choreography, okay? To do with dance, choreography. So this perichoresis was the word that for the early church became associated with the Trinitarian view of God. Are you familiar with that? The idea of Father, Son, and Spirit, that you could not explain or engage with a full understanding of the divine being that we would call God, unless you could understand that there were elements and attributes and personalities within him which had a distinction in their own right, but were also one and the same. So it's the whole thing you've probably heard of God in three persons, okay? One God, three persons, three in one, one in three, all intermingled together. Well, this word perichoresis was brought into the conversation to try and give some sense of the interaction between these understandings of the different elements of what made up the divine presence. So this perichoresis became associated with the Trinitarian view of God. And so I've been having a few thoughts on that I want to share with you. You see, whatever my dad may have thought of it, life is a dance to a seemingly increasingly complex tune. At 64 years of age, I can now say that. Life is a dance to a seemingly increasingly complex tune with a constantly changing rhythm. And you don't get to sit this one out. Now, what's interesting is my son has danced professionally and has been a professional dance teacher and still is. He's an amazing dancer. My daughter also is a great dancer and musical theatre. I've done lighting for dance shows, and I love to watch, particularly contemporary dance. Not as keen on ballet, but I love to watch a dance show. Now, having said that, I don't dance myself. I absolutely, irrespective of my son and his professionality and all that, I don't get dancing. Why anybody would want to dance, like go to a dance and dance with another person, is absolutely outside of my frame of reference. It makes completely and absolutely not 1 ounce of sense to me. So you've got somebody coming from that perspective explaining to you a little bit about perichoresis. What I have understood, even if I don't do that kind of dance, is about the dance of life, and where in the context of dance in every other form I would choose not to participate. Okay, you understand the term sit this one out. I would sit everyone out. But the dance of life, you don't get to sit this one out, and neither do I. It starts from the moment that we enter stage left, the day that we're born. The music starts and we begin the dance, and it continues until we leave stage right on the day that we die. Breathe our last breath, speak the name of God, hopefully with something more celebratory than morbid at that point of an enjoyment of what has happened. But the question then is, are you dancing the survival dance, or are you dancing the sacred dance? Perichoresis is an attempt to introduce us to a sacred dance that incorporates the inner part of us. It incorporates spirit as much as flesh. So if Jesus is the representation of flesh, God is a representation of the divine sense of love, the divine actual being of love, and the Holy Spirit is the expression, the representative, the interactive organism that links all these things together in their presentation and expression and doing and work and reality. Then in the same way, there has to be a sacred dance in us where spirit becomes as much part of this as flesh. See, I said this to you last time I talked. The church has invested way too much time and energy in developing people's conscience rather than their consciousness. So we have made people far more aware of the presence of something we would call sin than they are about the presence of the one we would call God. We've made them far more have a conscience about the depraved nature of humanity rather than a consciousness of the inherent presence of loving kindness and grace within humanity and in and on and towards us. So because we've invested more time and energy in developing people's conscience rather than their consciousness, we've not been taught how to dance well. The church has not taught us how to dance well. And we need to change that. See, at the core of the church's attempt at understanding this dance was the doctrine of God as Trinity. It does not ever say in the Bible that there is a Trinity, Father, Son, and Spirit. It's something that has been compiled in the best effort to try and understand the mystery of this one and yet many, many and yet one, and the interactive movement, the dance that takes place, that releases the energy, the power, the presence on a very real experiential level of the divine within our world. What I like about the doctrine of Trinity, of course Trinity 3, Father, Son, Spirit, what I like about the doctrine of God as Trinity is, and I think maybe this was a little bit in the minds of those who first presented this, is it breaks down the binary system of the mind. We tend to think everything in binary terms. Now you understand binary means two things. You know, we use binary code in computer science, etc. Binary means two. Here's the problem of the binary system of the mind, and I think you'll see this straight away. Here's the binary system of the mind. We think in terms of in or out, right or wrong, either or, black and white, master, slave, us and them, win or lose, reward or punishment. And of course on the church level it became clergy or laity, the binary system of the mind. So the doctrine of God as Trinity challenges the binary way of thinking, and I like it for that reason. See, the Trinitarian perspective and the perichoresis, the sacred dance in which they participate, is an attempt to explain what it is that frees us from the survival dance and the two-legged stool. Two-legged stools are not easy to sit on. That's another way of binary thinking. Ever tried to sit on a two-legged stool? Good luck. Your attempts to balance it have to be very precise and exemplary. Otherwise, you're going to fall. And yet, if we have binary thinking, it's like trying to live life sitting on a two-legged stool. And two-legged stools are not easy to sit on. What we need is a third leg, maybe a fourth leg. And I could talk about how in some of the wisdom of Scripture, there's the fourth leg, which is what Paul called the church, the body of Christ, right? That he is the head, we are the body, Father, Son, Spirit, the church. That's another conversation. What it does, it not only breaks us from binary thinking, but it brings us into a dance. It brings us into a multi-participatory experience that gives us stability, okay? See, when we talk about thinking, it just didn't sit right with me, what do we mean by it just didn't sit right? Here's my proposal. Things don't sit right. When things don't sit right, it's because they have too few legs or legs of unequal length. That's why things don't sit right. So our introduction to binary thinking comes right at the beginning of the Bible narrative. We're introduced to get a handle on this right at the very beginning, when in the Garden of Eden, which is don't get stuck on it as the literal place of two literal people. think of it more today in terms of this narrative is opening up to us some keys, tremendous keys. I think one wonderful one is about the role of chaos in life, which we've talked a little bit about that before. But it introduces us to this challenge of two trees. Okay, tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And then with this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it introduces us to two perspectives. Okay, the perspective of good and the perspective of evil. So binary thinking, we are exposed to binary thinking right from the very beginning, and it comes with a health warning. Okay, in case you think, well, that's the way to think. No, it comes with a health warning. The health warning was that the day that you eat of that tree, you will surely die. In other words, you will not find the steps to the dance of life and therefore be able to engage in that perichoresis, that sacred dance, where the divine and the human interact and integrate in such a way that there is peace and life and joy, like the tree of life. You will not be able to do that while ever you engage with and embrace just this level of binary thinking. It carries a health warning. Don't eat from that tree, you'll surely die. It's a two-legged stool, okay? It doesn't work. So this introduction of the third, which is what the Trinity is all about, we introduce the third. It's primarily breaks that the mind's binary way of thinking, okay? It's to break us out of that binary thinking. And be honest, you and I all approach everything from a binary perspective. All those things I've said about right and wrong, good and evil, in and out, black and white. And yet, to dance the dance of life, you have to get out of that. It's not the smoochy, lovey-dovey, Jesus is my boyfriend, just me and him dancey dance that some of you out there want. It's a circle dance. A circle dance is when you integrate, when more than two people are together and you dance together in a sharing process of a giving and receiving of life to each other. So this introduction of the third shows an interflow of relationship that corrects the imbalance of the in-out, the right-wrong, the either-or, black-white, master-slave, us and them, win-lose, reward-punishment. And it corrects that imbalance with the introduction of forgiveness, tolerance, acceptance, mercy, loving kindness. This was Jesus' teaching of the dance steps. Faith, hope, and love are Paul's teaching, Paul's contribution to the dance. Possibility and potentiality are science's contribution to the dance. Mystery and paradox are the mystic's contribution. And so we could go on about these contributions to this sacred dance. I think the desire of those early church fathers was to impart that perichoresis, with the full expression of divine presence that they called Trinity, was so you might grasp that their story, Trinity's story, is your story, and that your story is their story, and now we become part of the perichoresis, the sacred dance. And I think they were trying to get over that this is better experienced, hence the reason perichoresis is a dance. A dance is an experience. It wasn't about ticking boxes and filling in forms. It was an experience. It's a better experience than explained, is this whole idea of perichoresis, where their story is your story and your story is their story. This idea of Trinity may not answer all the questions, but it sure gives much more sense of peace within the questions as far as I'm concerned. So my great question for you today is, are you dancing the survival dance, or are you dancing the sacred dance? Let me finish up by reading you the words of the song that upset my dad so much, but maybe it'll bring you some life today. I danced in the morning when the world was begun. And I danced in the moon and the stars and the sun. And I came down from heaven and I danced on the earth. At Bethlehem I had my birth. Dance then, wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be. And I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. I danced for the scribe and the Pharisee, but they would not dance and they wouldn't follow me. I danced for the fishermen, for James and John. They came with me and the dance went on. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be. And I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. I danced on the Sabbath and I cured the lame. The holy people said it was a shame. They whipped and they stripped and they hung me on high, and they left me there on a cross to die. But dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be. And I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. I danced on a Friday when the sky turned black. It's hard to dance with the devil on your back. They buried my body and they thought I'd gone. But I am the dance, and I still go on. Dance then wherever you may be. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be. And I'll lead you all in the dance, said he. They cut me down, and I leapt up high. I am the life that'll never, never die. I'll live in you if you live in me. I am the Lord of the dance, said he. I bless you today. Join the dance, that sacred dance, and may the experience fill you with some great sense of your oneness with the divine today and how much you're loved. Bless you. Catch you again later.